How? Tell me, like, try to explain.
They're shit. Like, if you look at them, they're horrible.
Not only about art, right?
No, it can be anything, yeah. And people are charging nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. And now I feel like I'm confused with the question at this point. My name is, with Swedish pronunciation,
Of course, full.
Gabriel Björk Stiernström.
So sexy.
So sexy. But you can call me Gabes or Gabriel.
Wow.
Don't call me Björk like Digic did for a year. No, you can do that, but that's not my name. I'm from Gothenburg, Sweden, which is where I was born and where I grew up. I was always interested in art. When I was in the gymnasium, I studied digital production, where I learned the Adobe suite. So I learned After Effects and Adobe Premiere and Photoshop. But I was already good in Photoshop before that, because I learned it by myself. And I also learned Maya 3D at the gymnasium. And after that, I went to the university to study game development. And I went to the University of Skövde in the middle of Sweden. It's an academic program, so I have a bachelor's degree in media arts, I think. During my university years, I also got enough freelance work to start my own little company, just to handle my freelance work. And after 1 year after the university, I spent that year doing freelance work. But 1 year after university, I also got hired by Digic Pictures. And at that point, I guess I was 22 or 23 years old, maybe. Yeah. And now I've been at Digic for 2 years. And I will be taking my next step back to Sweden for a goodbye Kansas. See how that goes.
Well, Gabriel, I would like to make this video not only for the people who like in our profession, but also for who don't know anything about it. And how would you describe this profession for those people?
Concept art?
Yep. Like who didn't heard anything about it.
I usually describe it by saying that we are problem solvers, but that we also we are translators. So if someone gives us a text or an idea, we're the one who translates it from an idea or a text into a picture. And we do this to help the entire production, whether it's a game or if it's a movie, to inspire and to show everyone after us what they should be aiming for. So we are very early in the production stages. We get an idea from the director, or we get the script from the screenwriter. And then it's our job to translate that into images. That's probably how I would describe it.
You was working here in Budapest in studio called Digic Pictures for 2 years.
Yep.
And now you are moving.
Yep.
And like, what was these 2 years for you? Like, which kind of experience was it for you? Was it any difference between expectations you had when you was just starting working here? As I understand, it's like your first full-time...
Yeah, in-house, proper, yeah.
Yeah, and what was the difference between like your expectations and the reality, and which kind of experience you had here?
Well, I don't know what expectations I had apart from like working on cool projects, but
that's also kind of expectation.
Which I got to do. But I know that when I arrived, I was super scared because now I was in it, and I guess imposter syndrome started to come into place, and I was working with 2 other concept artists, Angelina and Anna, and I always went over to them and I asked, like, what are the expectations? What if I fail? What if I can't do stuff in time? And then I got to work on my first project was Elden Ring, the E3 teaser trailer, I suppose. And I was pushing so hard to make it work and happen, and to make the art director pleased and the director pleased. But I was scared throughout that entire project. I think it probably took around 3 or 4 months before imposter syndrome started to cool down a bit. Because you realize that if you we do have deadlines. We need to finish the work at a certain amount of time, and sometimes we have a very short deadline, and sometimes we have a longer deadline. But I always noticed that in the end, they were understanding, the art directors and the people we worked with. They were understanding whether a task was going well or when it wasn't going well, and if we needed more time, or and sometimes it wasn't even up to us. There are so many factors that take into place. We have a job to do, but at Digic, this was also something I learned, that you have to please so many people above you, and so many people above you have their own ideas that they want to see, and sometimes you might get a bullseye, like you nail it the first time and everyone are super happy, but sometimes or most of the time that doesn't happen. So whether you're happy or the art director is happy, there's probably going to be someone else that has comments, and then they change the camera angle, so it doesn't matter anyway. So I learned these things, and I had no idea about the actual process before. Well, I had some experience before, but not like this. But after you get comfortable, you don't really have expectations. I guess every time you get a new project, you're a bit scared still, because working with every project, you do get comfortable after a while, because you learn the project, you know the setting, you know the characters, and you might have built your own assets that you can reuse and so on, so you get more comfortable, you get faster with it. But every time you get a new project, then you are starting at zero again. So that's always a little bit intimidating. But you always just push through it. So. Yeah.
How did you start to making art? How did you find out this profession, this kind of stuff?
Well, I was always creative. So I also drew as a child. Pen and paper, and then I started drawing in Microsoft Paint. Wow. When I I don't know if I have anything from that time, but yeah, I was very small at this point.
Probably with mouse.
Yeah, exactly. There was a mouse, no tablet or anything, and then I think someone introduced me to Photoshop, and I started doing Photoshop, and I just followed tutorials on YouTube on how to create planets in Photoshop, which is why I've been doing so much space artwork ever since I first touched Photoshop. But then I also got, me and my brother, I don't know, when we turned 11 years old, we got our first camcorder. Mm-hmm. And we started shooting movies, small movies. And that camcorder could also take pictures. And I had a lot of Legos. And I saw a lot of stop motion movies on YouTube. So I started doing stop motion videos with that. And eventually they became more advanced. And this is interesting. All my videos are still on YouTube. And you can see how I progressed even there, like with my first video compared to my last in regards to composition, in regards to lighting, in regards to set decoration, even if it's a Lego. And of course, hopefully my animation got better. But there was also even a certain point when I started doing effects in Photoshop for my pictures. And while I was doing this, I also still continued doing space artwork, and I got better at that too. And so, and all of this was just because I wanted to be creative, not because I knew about concept art at this point. But when I was maybe 15, 16, I discovered that it was a profession that people drew pictures for movies. Mm-hmm. And I think it was around when I was 15 or 14, 16, where I got my first commission, like paid job for space artwork.
That's getting more interesting.
Yeah, and after that, I started getting more requests for specifically space artwork. And I started doing more of that, but then I discovered concept art and I realized I can't only do space art. If I want to be a concept artist, I need to do other stuff. So I started exploring photo bashing, and I got better at that too. I got better at understanding fundamentals, because I didn't have a proper art education. Mm-hmm. So all of the things I learned myself, like Photoshop I learned by myself. I learned how to do stop motion movies by myself, and artwork overall I learned it by myself with the help from online tools and tutorials and videos. But at the gymnasium I did get to learn Maya 3D. So I was 17 years old when I started using 3D. But I still think it took another year before I could incorporate it into my artwork, because at this point I was completely photo bashing. Because I didn't understand how to really use it in my artwork. I wanted to, but I wasn't good at 3D. So that took some time. But then eventually, just with me growing as an artist, I got more requests to do stuff, to do artwork and paid work, and eventually I got my first book cover. And I did attend the University for Game Development with a focus in 2D art, concept art. That was a horrible time. I didn't learn anything. I wrote papers. But it was still at this time where I got my first in-house gig, freelance job. It was an E3 trailer where I did the concept art and I did the matte paintings. It was for a game called Raid World War II. So, like everything, it wasn't a certain point where something clicked or something happened. Everything just naturally led me to doing concept art. I was always artistic. I was always creative. So I just continued that route. And at one point I would think that I felt like, no, but concept art is what I want to do. I want to work on movies and games. Mm-hmm.
while you was working here in Digic, you was also combining this kind of work with freelance, and I'm still have no idea how you was doing it, because like for me, sometimes after your full-time job, you're going at home and you're feeling exhausted, you're feeling that you're tired, and the only thing you want to do is just to sleep. And for you, it was only the beginning.
Yeah.
And you was also working hard to finish your freelance work.
Yeah.
How? Tell me, like, try to explain how you can like find this amount of energy to make also freelance, to combine this time-consuming stuff together.
Well, I don't always have the energy. Let's just start there. One of my weaknesses is that I have a difficult time saying no when work comes along.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Sure. But one thing in this industry is that it's very competitive, because there are a lot of good people, and there's a lot of good young people who have so much experience already. Mm-hmm. And I felt, when I spent my 3 years at the university, I felt like it was a race. So I could see on Artstation, I could see on Instagram or anywhere, all of these other artists, younger artists, or maybe the same age as me. I was also young. I guess I am still young, but I could see all of them improving and kind of aiming for the stars and just went for it. They learned and they did more art and they improved and they did more art. While I felt at the university I was stuck because I was writing papers. And I guess why I have energy, or why I still have the mindset for me that it's a race, that if I'm not doing work, I'm falling behind and I will be less attractive to employers and for companies and projects, because other people will be better than me. So in a way, I think that also me doing work when I get home is me just continuing practicing my craft to become better. And I'm using freelance work as a means to push me to continue working, because it's also, there are deadlines. There's a certain standard I have to meet, so it's not, I can't be lazy about it. So I guess that's a mentality thing that still exists in me, and I know it might not be a good thing, but it's still always there at the back of my head. If I'm not doing work, someone else is doing the work, and they are improving. So even if I get home and I'm exhausted, I still want to become better. I still want to practice the craft. And as I said, I don't always have the energy. Pretty recently, I found myself working on my freelance work after an ordinary work day, and I was falling asleep at the computer. I couldn't get anything done. I think it got, in the 1-2 hours I was working, it only got worse. The picture did not get better. I didn't solve any problems. And then you just know that you have to just stop, go to bed. But it's the same if I don't do any work. That's when I'm restless. That's when I become this like, but I need to do something. Sometimes I wish I said no to freelance work to focus on my personal stuff. But that's also when I get too comfortable and too lazy, and I start watching a movie instead, or I start playing a game instead. There was a certain point it might have been at the university. Even if I studied game development, I kind of quit playing games. And it was itching in me that I wanted to play a game for a while. But after 2 months, it just disappeared, and art became my natural thing. That every time I got home, before I went to bed, I always drew something just to keep the practice up. And I still think I have all of these things going for me. So even if I have had a full work day at Digic, I get home, I still have that. I need to continue. I need to work. I need to...
But isn't it risk to burn out with this kind of lifestyle?
Of course, there's a risk, but you have to know yourself. I know that if I still get my sleep, that's kind of where I draw the line. I still think I sleep more than people who don't go home and work. Because some people go home and play games all night instead. I still go to bed when I have to. I still always try to aim to get at least 6 hours of sleep. If I can get 7 or 8, that's even better. But yeah, you can get burned out. But I think it might have been worse when I was freelancing full-time and I had 3 jobs at the same time. And the deadlines were getting very tight against each other. That's more when I was burning out and got more stressed. Fortunately, I get to work with clients in my freelance work where I kind of get to set my own deadlines, or they are very open to it taking time and so on. So today I am taking my time with every picture regarding freelance because they are not strict on the deadlines. So, which is good because I have had other clients where they have a deadline that's set in 2 days. Usually then I don't get any sleep, and that's when I'm burning out. So, but I mean, if I'm enjoying it, then I might just as well just start doing or continue doing art, because if I'm having fun with it, it's just the same as watching a movie or playing a game. I guess it's a bit more constraining mentally for me because I'm still solving stuff than just disconnecting if I were to play a game or watch a movie, but I'm still having fun. So that's sometimes I don't have fun, but that's even true at at the full-time job. So
that's happening. But you're right, I guess that the most important thing here is to have fun of what you're doing. When some people was asking me how to get to the point where like I can draw and like I can make it my profession, and they wasn't really understanding that for this kind of work you don't need anything except like enjoying what you're doing, because like anyway you're doing a lot of the mistakes, a lot of the suffering kinda, because it's also, I think these lines, they going so close, like when you're enjoying of what you're doing and when you're absolutely disappointed, and like if you're still having fun, if this like way of thinking is like inside you, then you can reach the point where you like can reach some level of the work. And I think you're right.
No, but and that's what I've seen in myself, because when I was doing space artwork and I learned Photoshop at the same time, I was so happy with the results when I was younger, a kid. And I could see from picture to picture, like I'm getting better. Not that I at that point knew why I was getting better, but they were getting better. And I was so happy every time, and I was having fun with it. They're shit. Like, if you look at them, they're horrible. But that doesn't matter, because I was having fun. And it became like with space artwork overall as a personal thing that I just continued doing. I stopped having fun with it. Because at one point I felt like I've explored everything, I've done everything, and like there's not much for me to learn here anymore and I stopped enjoying it. And that's also when I started, I think it was at around the same time when I started exploring other aspects of art creation and photo bashing and photo manipulation, because I was having more fun with that now, and then I'm learning more there. And I think I'm learning the most when I'm having fun. So yeah, absolutely. But this industry, it can be a machine too. And sometimes you have to just push through the machine work. But sometimes you get to the fun work. But that's, I think that's, every artist in this industry have their own opinions regarding the machine part of it, the very corporate part of it, company part of it, or the enjoyment out of it and so on. I think everyone have their own opinions and their own ways of tackling and understanding it. So yeah.
When you started working on freelance, you founded your own company. Why it was like, why you made this decision?
Yeah, so that's a very, I wouldn't say political, but it has a lot of things to do with my government and tax paying. Because if I don't have any company and I'm suddenly receiving money into my bank account, the tax office will eventually start asking questions. Where's this money coming from? Why aren't we receiving any of it? So what's happening there? So it is important for me, it was very important for me to make sure that I handled my invoices, payments, salaries correctly, that I wouldn't have any come after me in a scheme where I get all of income from. And for me, it was making my own company was the reason for that. It's also very easy to send out invoices. You know that everything is done legally, everything is done correctly, and there's a safety net in knowing that. I tried handling my own accounting for half a year, but that went to shit. So I hired someone to do the accounting for me. I would recommend that for everyone. I'm an artist, I'm not a mathematician or an accountant. It's scary stuff.
Do you have any plans to expand your company in future?
That's a good question. I deliberately named my company Gels's Art and not my own name, in case
Björk Industries.
Yeah, but it is, and it is in case something would maybe happen in the future.
Yep.
If I were to create a concept art studio or anything else. So yeah, that's the reason. So maybe it will happen. At this very point, nothing is in the plans, in the works.
How you can find your freelance work? Like, what would you recommend for people who is watching this video? Like,
I've always found that the freelance work comes to me, depending on what they found. Back in the day, it was always through DeviantArt. Today, it might be through Artstation mostly. Usually, it is an author or a publishing house or a art director somewhere. They are looking through portfolios. They are looking for certain things. And then they stumble upon your portfolio and they like what they see and they usually reach out. So I think it's important, if you want freelance work, like, it will come to you. If you continue doing what you're doing and you're doing it well, it will come to you. you can also seek out freelance work, but I'm not too experienced in that. I had an instance because I worked on this mobile Star Trek game where the art director reached out to me because I worked on a similar space mobile game before that, Hades Star, and he saw my artwork in the game, and he looked up who the artist was, and then he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, we're doing something similar. Just would like to meet you and see who you are for potential work." But then nothing happened. And I went to this conference, Trojan Horse Was a Unicorn. And there were two guys there that I recognized. And I didn't know why I recognized them, but I really, I have seen your faces before. And eventually it clicked because on the website where this art director reached out to me, they have all of the employees. So they have all the faces. So when I was looking up the company, I wanted to see who the concept artists were. And these two guys, they were there. And I recognized them, and I recognized them at the conference. I was like, oh shit, they're working at the company where the art director reached out to me. So I went up to them at the conference and I said, "Hi, your art director spoke with me a while back." And they were super kind and super sweet people. And they asked me, did he say what project it was? And I was like, no, I just know it's a sci-fi thing. It's a big IP, but I don't know exactly what it is. And we just we became acquainted. The week after the conference, the art director contacted me again and said, "Hey, I saw that you met my concept artists. That's super cool. Do you want to work with us now?" So that was a coincidence, but I also did a little bit of work too, just to show myself, to say, hey, I'm still here, don't forget about me. So they just went back to Ireland and spoke with the art director, and he's like, "Oh yeah, cool, I'll contact him." And I've worked with them twice now, so, and I think that they will hopefully continue to contact me because I'm having a good working experience with them. And I think they're also enjoying working with me, hopefully. And that's another thing with freelance. Usually, if you're doing good work with one client, you will end up in their pool of freelancers that they will probably reach out to again for future freelance work. So that's always a thing. Do your best work. If you're doing freelance, don't half-ass it. Someone said you should always under-promise and over-deliver. And I think that speaks truth. Unless you're working with a shitty freelance client and you want to get out of it, so you're just doing the most lazy work. So yeah.
How to negotiate the money question, how to negotiate price of your work, and why is dumping is so bad.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic that we discuss at work. And yes, I think it's super important to charge your client what you feel you are worth. And it's always going to be different depending on where the client is from. Because if they are from the United States, they will probably have more money in their wallet. They will have a higher budget. If they come from Western Europe, they will have a higher budget than from Eastern Europe. So you will have to have these things in mind when you are negotiating salaries. But a thing that I find, and I've done this mistake when I did my first freelance work, my first commissioned work, they offered me, and this was on DeviantArt, and I was 16 or 15 when this happened. And they offered me, I think, $60 for a picture. And I thought that I was clever. And I said, how about... No. I said, how about instead of one picture, I will do 3 new pictures for you, but for 40 each. So I undersold myself. Like, they already had a higher budget. And I was like, but in the end, I would earn more if I made 3 pictures. And they were like, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, why wouldn't they? If 60 for each picture was their standard, and I just go, I'll do it for 40. Like, yeah, why wouldn't they? And but that's the thing, it's a learning experience. So I've done those mistakes, I've learned. And I've been so fortunate to work with a specific client who always asked me to time myself. Mm-hmm. And they told me that you are undercharging so much. For the amount of time that you're spending on this, you're not getting paid enough. So they raised my salary for me. And I'm still working with this client. It's the Hades Star people. And I started working with them in 2015. And I'm still 5 years later, I'm still doing freelance work for them. Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying it immensely. And they taught me a lot about how to charge. And another thing is, what I also started experimenting with was, if there's freelance work where I might not be too keen on doing it, like I don't really want to do it, then I overcharge just to see if they're gonna say yes. And if they don't say yes, then I didn't lose anything, because I really didn't want to do it anyway. But then you overcharge and they still say, yeah, sure. You go, oh, shit, I can charge that much? Like, they're willing to pay that much? So I've learned that too, through trial and error. And today I have a standard. This is what I will ask for. And if they don't have that budget, then that's fine. I'll just wish them good luck. Hope you find someone else. Unfortunately, it is damaging to the entire business and industry and to every artist when people are charging too low. Exactly. And not to specifically trash certain places or certain websites, but I think DeviantArt is a big crook in this, because so art is subjective, what you like and what other people don't like. It's very different. It's up to you as the individual. And DeviantArt has such a huge range of artists and artwork. And on this website, a lot of people have their prices on their page, where they might say a portrait for $20, or a full body for $40, or an illustration for whatever. So they have kind of set a price list, and then people can compare notes. Mm-hmm. And they say, that's what they are charging, so I'm gonna charge the same, or I'm gonna charge lower, because that's when the clients are gonna come to me. And I think through DeviantArt, that's where I get the worst offers. They offer the least every time, and the clients get so shocked and so surprised when I give them my rate, because they're used to the DeviantArt rates. Yeah. And I think that all of the artists on DeviantArt, they are damaging themselves doing this.
Exactly, that's the problem. That's the shooting in the own leg.
Yes. If they all just decided to, let's hide our prices, or let's all just raise our prices at the same time, the clients wouldn't disappear, because they would still need their artwork. They would still want the artwork. So there is, of course, a certain level where it becomes too excessive for the client, becomes too much. But if it's a good client, they will also know that they are paying for quality, or they are paying for the time you can do it in. And this is very valued, and this is something people are forgetting. And clients with a bigger budget, higher budget, they are usually the ones asking the least amount of questions. They're the ones paying your invoices in time. They're the happy clients that have no issues with your higher rate. Mm-hmm. It's always the people with a lower budget, they have more that they want to do. And that's when it becomes more time. And the more time you spend on it, the less value per hour you are worth. Specifically if you have a fixed price, which I normally do. I normally have a fixed price. So
per day.
Yeah, per day. And we can go back to that in negotiating with the client. You can either have a fixed price, or you can have I don't know what it's called when it's not fixed, fluid, loose, where it's literally the amount of time you're spending is what they're paying for. And I always ask the clients, because it's easier for me to just do a fixed price. I always ask them, what do you want? Give me as much information as possible. And then I can tell them, okay, so this I think will take me around 3 days to finish. And that's going to be this much. And usually they go, okay, sure. Or if they go, okay, sure, that's good. Let's agree upon that. Then I still gave them 3 days. That's what I can give them for that price. But if you have, of course, a fixed price, they can still give you feedback until after those 3 days, until they are satisfied. And I've had clients like that, and at a certain point I also have to say, dude, this is not worth it for me. Now it's getting ridiculous. The amount of changes or you want, or so on. So there is a certain point where you can also say stop. And beginners are always going to have a more difficult time with this stuff. They allow themselves to be the tool for the client. And the more experience you get, the more stern you will be with yourself and the client, because you will start valuing yourself, you will start valuing your time. And it is a practice. I don't think people can do that from the beginning. Yeah. I think it takes time to know that your artwork has worth, yeah. And your time has worth as well. And you need to balance that. And I don't think I can say this is how you should do it, but I will say DeviantArt is a crook. That's where a lot of people are looking, and people are charging nothing. Yeah. Literally nothing. And I guess there's this other website, Fiverr. Do you know about it? I think it's called Fiverr. Where people can, where you can pay people to do something.
Yes, I think. It's not only about art, right?
No, it can be anything. Yeah, it can be I challenge you to play this guitar solo or whatever. But there are art there as well. But they have different tiers. So they have this is actually professional. And you can see the prices are much higher. but there are so many YouTube videos of people like paying people at different tiers, at different level. And sometimes the artists that aren't charging much are doing such good art. And then people who are charging a lot of money, they're doing worse art. But I would still say that business-wise, the people who are charging more, they're doing better because they still, I guess, value their art. And it's just like, yeah, I guess it's a staircase. You have to climb it to, and you will learn and you will make mistakes and you will understand. But Jesus, don't charge $50 for anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Art has not always been life. I guess I've been creative in other aspects. Before I moved here, I've been playing music for over 10 years, I think. Or maybe approximately exactly 10 years. And I've played in a band with the same people for a long time. And we play post-rock, which is also one of the biggest genres I'm into. Every year I attend a post-rock festival in Belgium. This year, unfortunately, not. COVID. And I love going to concerts. I love going out, hearing music, seeing and experiencing the live music. And other creative aspects. I used to dance. I used to do break dance and hip hop for a few years when I was younger, and I still enjoy that and being acrobatic, and I enjoy moving around, and I really enjoy doing sports for fun as well, or whatever I can do. So yeah, my life is not only art, and of course I try to meet friends when I can and go out and have a drink. And that's also a great thing with going out with regards to live concerts, that you're also meeting your friends and you're having a great time. So I really enjoy that. And then, of course, when I do work, if I need to get into a certain mindset, sometimes I will put on a soundtrack or I will put on a certain song. So, for example, when I was working on the Assassin's Creed Valhalla trailer, I listened to Senua Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice soundtrack and the Last Kingdom soundtrack to get myself into the Viking mood. Apart from my Nordicness already that's there. And it's always like that if I do space art, or I can put on some more ambient, filmic type of music to get me in the mood or get me inspired. Or sometimes you just put on white lies and you just have fun doing stuff and you let the music, you allow the music and the art creation to get you in the zone, and you suddenly forget time, and then you realize, I should go to bed. I have work tomorrow. So yeah, that's what I can say about music and other stuff that I like and what I do.
When we discuss sometimes Artstation and other artists, some of our team, our colleagues, was a little bit complaining that there is some problems with the Artstation, with the amount of artists who is too similar type of work, of style.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there is some problems with it?
One of our colleagues, he made a very good example of The Last of Us 2 when the art drop happened on Artstation. And he said he was so disappointed in seeing that. He was disappointed because he couldn't tell who was who, because everything was looking exactly the same. Where he said that previously he's been able to tell that, oh, that's Aton, or that's Aaron Limonick, or whatever. And he could tell them apart, and he enjoys that. But when it came to The Last of Us 2, even when there are hired outsourcing studios, it still all looks identical, and you can't tell which is which. And he was sad about this, and I thought that was very interesting, because for him it was just a machine doing its work. I could also compliment it on being a very well art-directed game. That the art direction is so clear that this is the quality you have to achieve, and this is what you should aim for. If John Sweeney, the art director, made pictures, or he was the one that pushed everyone to a certain level, then I can also applaud the super strong art direction. Because for all of these artists, when you still look at their personal work today, they still have their own voice. And I think that's great. I think that's fantastic, because that's when I mostly get amazed, is when I find something new and you can see that there is a voice. And I still think that exists, but yes, you do see a lot of similar artwork. And previously, when Feng Zhu was the YouTube concept art guy, a lot of artwork looked like Feng Zhu's artwork. You can see even who his students are, because they have his look. And I feel the same with Jama today. You can see who his students are because they have the Jama look. And in a way, it's a shame, because I feel like it would be cool if you found your own voice. I don't know too much about art history, but I think that this still is exactly how it was during the Renaissance. The students copied their masters, and you could see which students had which master just on their work, because they had similar traits. So I still think it's natural that it happens, and it has always happened. But yes, I'm more annoyed by the lack of original ideas. Because a lot of the artwork is technically great. So like they've already achieved the fundamentals, and they already know all of the tools and the tricks. But there's no story. There's no soul. There's no thought behind it. Because they only wanted to do something that looked like their favorite artist or their idol. And that's where I get bored or annoyed. And sometimes you find people who are maybe not proficient, like they're not at the technical, fantastic level yet, but their ideas are good. Like they have interesting things going on. And I'm curious about, okay, so what is this guy gonna do next? Even if I might not like it or favorite it, I'm still curious to see, like, okay, so where is this gonna go? So I'm more not annoyed, but a bit wouldn't say annoyed or sad or disappointed, but it is a bit. I wish to see more original ideas and original stories, and not just a lot of people trying to achieve the quality of. Because that's the thing, most of the idols that they have, if it's Jama or Mache or Eitan, they have their voices, they have their styles, and a lot of them have several styles. And that's probably because they are not looking at other people necessarily to try and copy. I still think they accept feedback and they ask for feedback from their peers, but it doesn't take away their voice. And I think that's very valuable.
If you want to like be an artist and you're understanding that, I don't know, 80% of the Artstation is pretty similar works, where you can find inspiration, where you can find good references, how you like, could you be more like unique artist?
I think that's very different depending on who you are. People find inspiration from different sources. I always found when I read books, I don't read too many books, but when I do, I still get very clear pictures in my head. And it's usually nothing that I've seen before. It's just that the book gives me a description.
And so fast. Like.
Yes, exactly. And I'm creating it myself. And so many times I think, oh, that's a cool picture. Oh, that's an awesome picture. I should do that. But I would also push real life. I get a lot of inspiration from traveling and seeing places, seeing cities.
Especially in 2020.
Of course, this year was a bit difficult. I still managed to get into some places, and I always take my camera with me and photograph things. But it is, and I know that everyone will not have the opportunity to be able to travel like I've had and to explore things, but there's a huge difference in creating a picture with a waterfall in it and just creating it based on what you've seen in videos and what you've seen in documentaries or on other pictures, compared to someone who has stood at the bottom of a waterfall. Because there's so much more to it. I, who was on Iceland and saw many waterfalls, I can tell you about the sheer power and force that all of that water has when it drops. The wind and the wetness and the loud booming sound of it. And when I create a picture, I can aim for those, I can aim for the feelings too, not only the visual part. And those things inspire me immensely. Seeing a misty mountain or street lights reflecting in the rain in a different certain way. I get very inspired by these real life scenarios. I went to the Vasa Museum in Stockholm and I saw this shipwreck and I just instantly felt like, I need to do something with like pirate ships and stuff because it was so amazing seeing this. So I get a lot of the inspiration from real life. But of course, movies, I love movies and I love games. But normally I don't get inspired, like artistically inspired by that. Not even from looking at other people's artwork. I love looking at movies, playing games and seeing other people's artwork, but it doesn't inspire me personally always. And if it does, it's rare. And I'm usually more inspired by what I experience from real life. Or reading a book, like the images that pops into your head are very powerful. Yeah. For me, I think it's very different for everyone how they experience inspiration.
But I feel the reason why most of the works are similar on Artstation, that like people sometimes making this mistake, they trying to inspire by the work of the other artists. And they trying to replicate it, which is also not bad, especially when we're learning. But I think the thing you should like be trying to catch from other artists is the level of art. It's like the level of details, the level of, I don't know, like the coolness of the actions of the compositions, but then not the ideas of the works.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a very good point.
Like, could you name the main films, main books that was inspiring you, maybe when you was kid, when like you was more adult?
That's a big question, because there's so much. I can't deny that Star Wars was a big influence on me as a kid. My father, I don't remember a time when I did not watch Star Wars. So my father sat me and my brother down with a VHS and showed us Star Wars when we were toddlers. So that has definitely affected me and what I like and visually and so on. When it comes to otherwise, when growing up more and more, I got more interested in Ridley Scott and Alien, and which has pretty similar, if you're looking at the spaceships and so on, aesthetic. Like there is this late 70s, 80s sci-fi aesthetic, and that I'm heavily inspired by. But I like the darker stories, more of Ridley Scott, Alien, and Blade Runner, of course. And today it's Denis Villeneuve. Like, I think he has a fantastic vision and sense, and the more you learn about the industry, eventually I figured out that cinematographers were a thing. And I am very inspired by certain cinematography. Roger Deakins, of course, being one of the main. But when it comes to books, I always enjoyed reading fantasy more than sci-fi. So I tried reading sci-fi several times, but I could never get into it. Usually they were too convoluted or too ridiculously deep, which I never enjoyed. But I enjoyed more the fantasy adventures reading, which interestingly, I was not interested visually in fantasy. It was always sci-fi. I always built spaceships with Legos and it was always lasers and so on. And I had no interest in Lord of the Rings. I watched them, but I didn't care about them. So the fantasy genre came, I guess, with me reading more fantasy books. And when it came to games, it was also more sci-fi oriented stuff. But I also grew up with The Legend of Zelda, which is fantasy. So I have a lot of different sources. Some of the fantasy books that, for example, gives me a lot of pictures when I read them. There's a series by Joe Abercrombie. He has, I don't know what it's called, like if the entire franchise has a name, but I think one of the books is called Best Served Cold, and then there's a trilogy, and I really don't remember any of the titles, but
I can edit after.
Yeah, you can totally do that. That's fantastic technology. But my favorite, probably my favorite book to this day, franchise, is also a fantasy. And it's called The King Killer Chronicles.
It will be here.
Yes, exactly.
Magic.
And there are 2 books out right now. It's Name of the Wind and A Wise Man's Fear. And they are so good. Mostly because I enjoy the writing of it. It grabs me. You just want to turn the pages and you want to know what's happening next, and you also get these pictures in your head. So yeah, that's normally mostly where it's a lot of Star Wars as a kid, less Star Wars as an adult. And today I think Lord of the Rings, the movie trilogy, Peter Jackson, is fantastic. So I've not read the books, but the pure art direction and the set design and the world building is so good. And I admire that very much.
How you could sell yourself, sell your work for the other people? Should you use only Artstation, or you should use Instagram or all media at once to actually make big amount of followers?
Entire social media topic. I think I received job offers through every website I've uploaded.
Even through Instagram?
Probably once. But personally, I would also judge you depending on how you contact me. Mm-hmm. If you contact me through the DeviantArt message system, then I won't take you seriously. Mm-hmm. Then I will just assume that you don't have the budget to hire me anyway. Because if you can't take the time just to check what my email is, which I've written down, I think 3 times on my DeviantArt page, if you can't take that time, then I can't take you seriously.
Can you send us your portfolio, please?
That's never happened, fortunately.
On Artstation.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess the Artstation message board is a little bit better because they even have you can tell if it's on business or if it's just and you still get an email. If someone sends you a message on Artstation, a business, you still get an email. And usually I just write them that, hey, here's my email, write me there. Because Artstation usually also have a bit more serious people on it. But do I think that you should be everywhere? I mean, I quit Facebook. I don't think I ever received a job offer on Facebook. I've almost quit DeviantArt. I only go in there to upload a new picture once in a while, but that's it. Then I leave. I get most of my freelance inquiries and requests through my email. So I guess that's more important. It doesn't matter. Yeah, sure, show yourself, but write your email everywhere. Show them where they should contact you. It's easier for me also running a business to have everything in one place instead of trying to figure out, that was a person on Instagram, I should reply to them there, or I should reply to them on Artstation, or no, DeviantArt, Facebook. It's just more easy for me as well to keep everything in the same place. For beginning artists, no. Learn how to draw, learn how to make art, learn how to create cool ideas. Mm-hmm. That's what you should be focusing on, not the social media. And I don't think the big artists truly care about social media either. It just happens to be that they're good, so they have a lot of followers. I think it's a lot of the middlemen, the people who are just not getting the job yet. Mm-hmm. That are comparing themselves a lot. I think it's damaging. I think it's bad. But it's also very much up to the individual, how they feel about it. But I personally, of course, I always check when I upload artwork, how much likes is it getting or how many new followers. I'm also looking at that. I'm not gonna lie, but I try not to make it affect me. Like my next artwork doesn't need to have more likes than my previous one. So I just try not to let it affect me. That's it.
And you finishing here in Digic as senior concept artist. How can you describe like which skills do you need to be a senior concept artist? What's the difference between like just concept artist position?
I think it's different depending on where you are, which studio you are in. And let me just say this as a side note. I think it's weird on Artstation where people write that they are freelance senior concept artists. Because who's to judge? If you're a freelancer, then you're a freelance concept artist. You don't have to say that you're a senior or a lead.
Shit about this.
No, but I mean, like in the end, you're still just a concept artist.
We need to say something bad. Just have shitstorm.
Yeah, of course, we need to stir the shit also a little bit. So guys, stop doing that. But at Digic, the difference between a senior from when I was a senior and a intermediate concept artist, to be honest, in the workload, not too much changed. They sometimes told me that they gave me certain tasks specifically because I was the senior, and I guess they had faith in that I would finish the task in the quality and time that they expected. So yeah, there are the senior tasks, like you need to do this, but at Digic they also valued your approach generally. Are you able to help others? Are you able to teach others? Are you able to communicate well with others? And I felt maybe it was me personally taking more initiative, but I felt like since I got the senior title, I could get more said and done. So regarding the upgrades of the workstations, I pushed that for a long time. Eventually we got the upgrades, but they asked me, okay, so what are the upgrades? And I had to decide for everyone what the upgrades would be.
So it's a little bit more responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit more extra responsibility that doesn't even always have to do with the art itself. Even the art sometimes, it's a bit more responsibility, but I don't think I did any task that no one else could have not done. So it was just a bit more extra, almost administrative responsibilities. I still did not participate in the choosing of potential new colleagues.
You're telling me just in case someone will start writing.
I had nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to be an art director.
Why? That's the good question, by the way.
Because I feel if you look at Digic, how the art directors work, and as far as I understand from other art directors,
I think it's in every studio.
They're not doing as much actual work, artwork, because they're doing more direction. And they're not only art directing the concept artists, but a lot of them are art directing the entire project. So they're also looking at how the 3D is going, how the effects artists are doing, and how the grading and the lighting looks, and so on. every time we are doing personal work, we are our own art directors, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that, not having anyone telling me what to do. But I could not bear the responsibility of art directing a project, because a lot of times I feel I don't have the answer. I don't have that vision, and I want to do art. I don't want to tell other people what to do. I'd love to help other people, but I don't want to decide for them. If it is a smaller indie studio, then yeah, I could probably art direct if it's an indie game or something. But I still think I would need a couple of more years to find myself in that position. Because at this point I'm enjoying the creation of art too much to let that go, to just start looking at art and telling people how to do it. So yeah, it's not what I'm looking forward to. If I don't know if that's seen as the next step. Like first you're a concept artist and then you're an art director.
It feels like more it's on the side.
Yeah, it's almost
just different kind of work.
Yeah, because the art directors at Digic, they also come from different, like one is from advertisement, one is from the environment department, he came from there, and others are more artistic background, so they are different. But it's an immense responsibility. And I think if you have a good vision, I appreciate a good art director. But you also need to, apart from having a good vision, you need to convey that vision. Because our job is to show what the art director wants to see.
Yeah.
We are their translators. We are their tools. And sometimes we fail to understand what they want. And that's natural, it happens. But it can be of a lot of different aspects. Like maybe we have completely different tastes, but then you have to work on that too. Maybe it can be a language barrier or a misunderstanding or something. But usually you end up at a certain point where you're both happy. I hope so, at least.
Yeah, it's difficult to achieve.
Yeah.
When it's happening, that's good.
Yeah.
Could you describe, please, what does professionalism means for you? That's a good question. I think a lot of people say that they are a professional artist as soon as they've started getting paid for what they're doing. And I don't know if you should self-label yourself as a professional artist or if it's going to be someone else who labels you a professional artist. To me, of course, having had actual working experience and getting paid for your work, it says a lot. And I think that should be enough for you calling yourself a professional artist. But there could also be fantastic artists, even if we're not even talking about the concept art, movie, game industry. If we're talking about people who are doing art, classical art. I don't know when they see themselves as professional. Maybe it's once they finish their education. Because I don't know how long it takes before you might sell your first painting, and if that's what's required for you to be called a professional artist. I would also, personally, subjectively, I will judge someone's artwork, whether or not I think it's good or not, to maybe say if it's professional or not. But it is very subjective. like for me, what I find to be good and professional. And people are also, in this industry in particular, people are also referring to being professional. For us, it also has to do with when you're in touch or in contact with your client, or even in working in-house with your colleagues. You can be professional there as well, and you can be non-professional. I think it's important to always be professional when you are writing your clients, be proper in how you write your emails, because I also will judge you on the way you write an email to me. And I will always say, this is so unprofessional, and I will kind of get offended if someone writes an unprofessional email to me. And I think that's a very important aspect of this too, of our industry, especially if you're doing freelance work, to always be professional, even in-house and when you're working. Eventually you'll start to understand your environment if you're working in-house, and you'll understand how far you can take a joke, or that you know that you aren't serious about certain things, and you can be more comfortable and be more relaxed within your company. So it's not like you should always be boring as in professional. You should of course be yourself, be relaxed, but so yeah, it is a very good question. I don't really know how to properly answer it. I would probably merit more the quality of the artwork rather than if you actually had gotten paid for the artwork or not. So yeah, but then it's up to me what I find to be good quality or not.
Well, Gabriel, after 2 years of being here, of working in Budapest, of working in this studio in Digic Pictures, you are living back in Sweden, in Stockholm. Why?
There's a lot of factors that play into it, and it's a good question. Sometimes I don't know. No, but it's because I want to experience something new. I want to see if I can learn more stuff at a different place, get new experience, and find other ways to improve myself. And also, it being in Sweden, I think that I will have the opportunity to work with some people that I've admired, some Swedish artists, which really excites me. And there are other aspects that play into it, because I know what projects we have at Digic. I know kind of how things look for the foreseeable future, and I just felt like, no, but I would be more excited to go somewhere else and try something else out. So that's kind of why I'm heading back north.
So you want to say that it's like part of the journey of any artist to switch the places?
Yeah, I think it's a part of my journey, at least. And in this industry, I think it's very common because the industry is so international, that you will go where the industry or where it takes you. As you know, I didn't expect or maybe even wished to go back to Sweden after 2 years. But that's where opportunity came. And I have received other offers during these 2 years, but I was happy at Digic. But at this point, I felt like, no, but this is a good opportunity for me to continue the journey then. Yeah.
What is your plans on the next years? What is your goals? maybe you want to make a tutorial, maybe you want to make, I don't know, your own course, or
haven't. Well, of course, it's crossed my mind. Like, I think it crosses a lot of our minds. Like, oh yeah, I could do this, or I could teach that.
Yeah, I think that's the pretty natural feeling from you. Like when you're learning something by yourself, you want to share also the knowledge with the.
Yeah. And I have been thinking about that particularly regarding, for example, space type of concept art. Like, I know I'm very good at that, so that's where I might be comfortable to show some tips and tricks and skills and so on. But then again, I don't think anyone has also asked me. Like, sometimes they ask, okay, how did you do that? But regarding tutorials and courses, I feel like there should be a demand. And I don't think there's a demand for my experience and knowledge at this point. I might do it in the future when, if people start asking. But I still like to teach and show. So I'm very curious about it. I would like to do it. But yeah, then again, like the people I purchase tutorials from and watch are people I admire. I'm happy that they are releasing tutorials, and I've hoped that they've been releasing tutorials. I don't know if anyone is in those shoes at this moment, looking at me, hoping for tutorials. So that's kind of why I'm waiting.
But I bet when you're releasing new artwork, there is still people who are asking like, "Wow, dude, how did you do this?"
Yeah, of course. But most of them are my friends who are not into art, and they're like, "Wow, how did you do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can show you," but I don't think they would be interested in sitting through a 2-hour-long tutorial to watch that. But yeah, no, of course, if you just do it, I think people will watch it. So maybe I'll start slowly and try a few things to see if it works out. If people are interested, and if they're not, just see if I'm enjoying it. So, yeah.
But I think it's always a problem when you're trying to balance to make something like to be useful, interesting for like only for the beginners and for the advanced artists at the same time, because it's difficult to please both of these kind of groups people.
No, I think you have to decide when you start, like, who's the group that's gonna watch this. Is it professional? Is it intermediate? Or is it beginners? It is a balance, but I think you have to make the decision. I wouldn't want to make a tutorial where I explain, and this is the shortcut for this tool. Yeah, and this is how you navigate in this program. Like, I have no interest in those, because there are a million of those tutorials. I would probably aim for something more intermediate or advanced. But then again, most of the things I learn, I see in tutorials that already exist. Like, the way I do things, my workflow is very similar to what's out there. So I don't know how much new I could bring to the table anyway. That's unless, of course, maybe more space-focused stuff then.
But I think you still should to try to make some kind of tutorial, because the problem is, of course, if you want to make something unique, it's difficult to make, because there is so much of different information, and honestly, it's way more, I think, than it's needed to be now. Yeah. There is so much information that it's like closing itself it's like smoke fence of itself when you're like watching on these millions and millions tutorials and you don't know like which is right, which is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's cool when people, like, when specific artists are trying to explain their own pipeline, their own like tricks. That's why I think that's the like moments when you can like, decide, okay, I'm like the work of this guy, and I want to create some kind of works of this level, of this like specific kind, and then like you trying to buy a tutorial from this guy, not because he can tell something unique. I think it's kind of difficult to produce absolutely unique information that no one even made before. The same, I guess, with like, I don't know, Java tutorials. I think you still can find all this information from the other places, but people still buying this tutorial because they want to see how he's managing this information, how he's like his approach of making things. That's why I think you definitely should try to make some kind of tutorials, because I feel also that you can explain information, you can also make it in interesting way.
Well, we'll see. Maybe it happens this year. Maybe in 2 years. We'll see.
Maybe not.
I think I would enjoy it. So then we'll just have to see how many who are interested in watching it as well. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think also that's important thing when you're trying to teach someone, when you're trying to make tutorial or something, this kind of stuff, you're also learning by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's also important thing.
No, I actually find myself, if I am alone and I am working on freelance, or I find myself speaking to myself sometimes, like just commentary on what I am doing. Because it is I think it's very true that if you talk to yourself, or if you're doing tutorial, if you're teaching others, you're hearing your own thoughts. Because you normally, a lot of the things we do at this point come so naturally to us that we don't truly think about it, the way a bounce light happens, or why that color is there, why I did that decision. So it comes so naturally to us because we've done it so many times. So you stop thinking about, okay, but why am I doing this? And I think when you start asking the question and you become aware of it, you are learning more again. So I think it's a super valuable thing, for yourself as too, to grow. So I agree with that. I guess maybe one of the things I didn't quite answer was maybe where my journey would take me, or the future. I'm gonna start my new job at Goodbye Kansas as a lead concept artist. But I still want to work properly in VFX and movies. Because both Digic Pictures and Goodbye Kansas, we are working on other people's IPs. Cool IPs, cool projects. But it would be fun to work on big Hollywood blockbusters. And ILM, of course, has always been, because it's the first proper VFX house. And they have innovated the industry so many times. Like, it would be cool just to have been a part of that. But otherwise, I mean, any VFX house, double negative, frame store, MPC, just to get a chance at the big Hollywood. But then you reach the other level where some artists, they're not even working for the effects house anymore. They're hired directly by the movie director. I mean, that's a different level by itself. Would be awesome if you'd reach that. I don't think I'm near that point yet, but it's an aim, it's a goal to get to that point.
How do
see yourself in 1 year?
Hopefully, I will just continue on the path I'm on and improve in my art. Probably I'll try and improve in my social aspects too. And be... Well, that's a balanced question, because I'm very into what I do. I'm very into concept art and illustration and artistry. But I also have other people around me that I should look after and care for, and be with. And a lot of times I find that these two aspects compete against each other, specifically because I'm doing so much freelance work on my free time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I will see if I can improve both that, myself as an artist, but also as a person with people around me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I have gotten better this year at seeing the other people around me, but not as good as some people would have hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, I understand that, I can see everyone's viewpoint of this, and it is a difficult thing to balance. And I have no idea how certain people have families, kids, and are working full-time or freelance or doing person. I have no idea how they manage to do everything and still sleep in the night. So that's an interesting conversation by itself, and it's something I hope to improve on, of course.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed this video, put the like, leave the comment. What does usually people saying in this situation?
Subscribe.
Subscribe, exactly. And if you have also some interesting questions to Gabriel, I think we can maybe later, maybe in this year, make another video somewhere in Sweden, for example. And
check out this guy's work.
Yeah, and check out this guy's work, exactly. And subscribe on our Instagrams, which will be here. And yeah, see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.